Thank you. Just get yourself comfortable.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Whoops. What did I hit? Oh, there.
Hello, I'm Sharon, and I'm here today at Richmond Villages, Witney, to talk about International Women's Day and to find out what you have to say about it. I'd love to know your stories. So, tell me about your career. What was your career path like? How did it work for you during these days where perhaps things weren't quite so equal?
I trained to be a secretary, started my life as a secretary. I worked for a language school in Oxford and eventually worked myself up to be the bursar and the finance director.
That's quite a jump, isn't it?
It was a jump. But yeah, over a few years. I was with the company 30 years, so a long time.
I graduated from university with a degree in physiology and biochemistry. Spent 3.5 years doing research, both in obstetrics and abdominal surgery. Went to the health service, then went into banking until I got made redundant from the bank. Joined Equitable Life, got made redundant by then, and then set up my own company.
I actually wanted to do music, but I wasn't really, I was only going to end up by being a music teacher. And so I somewhat fell into horticulture, shall I put it that way?
Yes.
And I ended up working for 30 years at Sissinghurst Castle as co-head gardener of the National Trust.
I graduated in science. I then became a carer, and during that period I did a secretarial course, and then I did a law degree. Because I wasn't a very good secretary, I was offered a research post, and I worked in research with more and more funding from local authorities and from the Department of Health in suicide prevention.
Very mixed career. Began as what I would call a problem solver and ended up as a counsellor, which is definitely not a problem solver.
So, if I was to ask you about who was the most influential during your professional life, is there any one person that springs to mind?
It's an interesting question. I think that one of the biggest inspirations for me was one of my teachers, actually. I was educated at a convent and I had a nun who was an Oxford graduate in mathematics, and she inspired me to believe that is a path that I could take.
My boss, she...
A lady.
A lady, absolutely, yes. She inspired me, I think, she made me the person I am today.
Well, I think the most influential one was my chemistry teacher at school, and she got me started in a science career. But then I was then supported in my research by a world-famous suicide researcher, and he let me do more or less what I wanted.
The principle of this horticultural enterprise started by two very remarkable ladies who wanted to get the face of practical horticulture to be as recognised as getting a BSc in botany or whatever.
I don't think the person was at work. I think it was more self-motivation. Just knew that I had to get the job done all the time and do it the best I could.
So, in your career, what would you say has been your proudest moment, your biggest achievement?
I think probably being at a very low number of staff in the John Radcliffe to start with and getting it to fully operational with the transfer of staff from the old hospital in town up to the new site.
I mean, first of all, getting a degree was quite an achievement because I didn't come from a particularly academic family. But perhaps I would say being able to combine the raising of a family with a very varied career, both in an employment basis, but also in a voluntary charity basis. So both.
That is an achievement, actually. Most people don't.
Juggling it and managing to hold it together. Because it was constantly addressing different issues, looking for doors that open as well, actually.
I think a research project I did in the New Forest, because my research had identified that people were coming from all over the country to kill themselves in the New Forest in their cars. And there were about 10 to 12 a year for a 10-year period. There were 140 car parks, so you couldn't stop people coming into the car parks, and you just couldn't stop them bringing their vacuum cleaner hose or their washing machine hose to kill themselves. And we decided to put up signs in the entrance to the New Forest car parks to tell people the telephone number of the Samaritans. And for the next 10 years, the number dropped to 2 or 3 a year. And in the following 10 years, there wasn't a single local death in the car parks, and those that came in from outside, nobody died in a signed car park.
What does success look like to you?
Oh, success is not necessarily about achieving. Success is about being yourself and real. And also that I am walking empathetically with other people. There's something about the care of relationship with my fellow human beings that's very significant to me.
Getting the most out of a situation, whatever it is. My husband died when I was quite young, and actually to have got through that, sold the house, sold half the possessions in the house, and moved here on my own. I don't have family, so it was very much a one-man band, and that's success.
Coping, even when there's a catastrophic disaster like having a handicapped son, it didn't mean I couldn't do anything. You learn to cope, you learn to help support other people in the same position. And when Martin died, people said that knowing him had changed their attitude to handicapped children, because we took him out in the community, we were never ashamed of him, and he was a very sociable little boy.
If you were to advise any young women starting out in their career right now, what would you say to them?
Oh gosh, I think to go into a career that you really want to do, not a career that's easy money or anything. I think challenges in life, I would say, always challenge yourself and look for something interesting, worthwhile.
I think starting out is not to worry, if it's possible to live, not to worry too much about the salary, but to try and find something which appeals to you and to which you can give something back.
Oh, looking at what has happened to me through life is follow your passion, but look for those open doors that can lead you down a route that was unexpected.
To take the opportunity to learn any new skills that you can, because nothing you learn is ever wasted, and it can be applied as a transferable skill into very many opportunities in later life.
Make sure you're doing a job that you enjoy. There's nothing more soul-destroying than doing something that is a pain every day. And the other thing I would say to people is make the most of today. You'll never get it back again.